Go, hit record. Now I'm recording. Thanks, Ruth, for catching that. So anyway, as I was saying, I like to think that when you sign up to work with me during weight loss or on your weight loss journey, when you join my weight loss program, your focus is always, Jane, I want to lose weight. I want to look good. I want to fit back in my clothes. I want to fall in love with myself again. We focus so much on the physical, and honestly there's nothing wrong with that. My own journey began with losing weight in order to feel better about myself. So it doesn't mean because you've chosen to take care of your physical, you want to lose weight, you want to feel sexy, you want to feel confident, it doesn't mean you don't love yourself. It's just that maybe in the course of us working together, losing weight, by now, because all of you have worked with me for so long, you've realized that weight loss is so much more than the physical. Losing weight changes a lot of things about you. However, I wanted us to kind of pop the hood, so to speak, and take a deeper look or take a deeper dive into what it takes to really love yourself. And I share this because when I began my weight loss journey, 2008, in 2010, 2011, I looked amazing. I looked the best I'd ever looked in my life. Remember, I grew up the chubby kid, the chubby teenager. I grew up bigger than my mother. So I had never looked the way I looked in 2010. I looked great. I had lost weight. However, deep down, I was broken. I had no self-confidence. I didn't feel worthy. I was in an emotionally abusive relationship, and I allowed that to happen because I didn't realize a lot about who I, Jane Mukami, deep down is versus what I looked like. When I began my weight loss journey, you know what I used to think? As most of you know, I had just gotten divorced. Sorry, I'm muting everybody. There's a lot of background noise coming in. As most of you know my story, I had just gotten divorced and I was using weight loss as a way to recover and feel better about myself. By 2010, when I looked amazing, I thought that looking good meant my life would be great, that just from losing weight, I would be happier. But there's a part of me that was dealing or conflicted or didn't realize a lot about myself. My packaging had changed, but my mindset about who I was, how powerful I was, this is the part that took me a lot of therapy, a lot of counseling for me to realize that even though I look good, I'm not happy. I don't value myself. So self-love is so integral, and that is why I'm going to call her my sister, my friend, Miss Jacinta Mutonga, who is a self-love coach, to start helping us understand what self-worth is during this session. So without further ado, I'm going to welcome Miss Jacinta. Good to see you, ladies. Good to see you, Elizabeth. Welcome. I see you clapping for her. Thank you. Welcome, Jacinta. So good to have you. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Jane, and good afternoon, evening, ladies, wherever you are. I am so honored to be here. Thank you so much, Jane, for inviting me over to talk to the ladies. You and I go a long ways. We actually met on Facebook some 8-9 years ago.
2013, 2012, when I was at the height of bodybuilding.
8 years, yes. And at that time we were in a fitness group together, and we have come a long ways in our personal growth journey, and in our overall growth, we've come a long ways. So my name is Jacinta Mutonga. I'm based in Northern Virginia, or just outside of Washington, D.C. A mother of two, I'm a businesswoman, a wife, and like all of you, I'm wearing multiple hats on any given day. And I'm a self-love and relationship coach. And what that means is I help women work through the parts of themselves that they need to work through to really know who they are at the core, what their worth is, and how to step out into the world as women who are already whole and fulfilled and feeling good about themselves, so that they can rise into their power. And that's very much an internal job. It's a very much an inner job. So that's what I do. And thank you so much for having me today.
Awesome. Thank you, Jacinta. Yes, Jacinta and I go way back. As she said, we met in a fitness group. This is when I was at the height of fitness, when I looked my best, and I used to share information. And then I think a year later, we physically met. I happened to be good friends with her brother-in-law here in Georgia. So we eventually met physically, and we developed our own personal relationship. And through the time and through the years, we've both grown, we've both gone through a whole lot of different things, and now we're able to help women in different aspects of themselves. I think, Jacinta, one of the things is, as women, like you said, we wear so many different hats. You're a mother, you're a wife, you have a job, you know, and we give all those things so much energy and effort that we're drowned out. We no longer know who we are. Like, if your children went to college, you feel lost. If you get divorced, your life ends. You know, we end up being defined by things outside of ourselves. And when those things disappear or come to an end, it's like, we're like, where do I go? What do I do? And I think self-love and self-identity, knowing who you are, is a big part of this. So how did you get into doing this work?
Oh, wow. Where do I start? First of all, I grew up in the village. I grew up in Kirinyaga, and I remember being, as a young woman, a little girl who was deeply unaware of who she was, and have struggled with my self-esteem throughout my whole life. And I just wanted to belong. I didn't know how to love myself. And this continued through my teenage years, and I continued looking for fulfillment and love and feeling some sense of self, some sense of worth from outside sources. So I was constantly chasing things to make me happy. I got lucky to leave Kirinyaga, to come to America, and I remember getting on an Alitalia flight, and as we were taking off, I was like, this is freedom for me. Now I'll be happy because I've left Kenya and I'm going to America, where my life is going to be happy. I come to America, I continue to be as lost as they can be. I continued being this girl who was always people pleasing and chasing for validation from external sources, and just overdoing so that I can feel accepted, right? Or always running away from myself. And then I met a wonderful guy, got married, and I'm like, hey, yeah, I'm gonna finally be happy, right? And then I get the good guy that I never thought I would get married. But anyways, I meet a nice guy, and finally I think this is where happiness resides. And I think I started really crashing when I had kids. My oldest is 20 and my youngest is 17. And I remember a lot of women would say that when they got their baby and they held their babies the first time, this is the most incredible amount of love they ever felt. I was like, holy shit, what just happened? How am I charged with being responsible for this little human being when I barely can take care of myself? Inside, I feel like I'm still a little girl because I have no clear sense of how to support myself, right? So I immerse myself in the doing, where I make a promise to myself, I'm going to be this wonderful mom, I'm going to be businesswoman, I'm going to be cooking all the meals, I'm going to be having people over and entertaining them on weekends, and just overdoing. What we find ourselves doing is overdoing. And I was gonna do it all in stilettos and makeup in a nice outfit, right? So I did that. I carried on that facade for like 4 or 5 years. And one day I just had a complete breakdown. And
Wow.
then what tends to happen is we start blaming it, we become victims, right? So I started blaming my husband. You are supposed to make me happy. This hasn't happened. Look at me, I'm crumbling. And I literally moved to a different room because I'm like completely done. You are meant to make me happy, but you're not making me happy, right? So he's looking at me like I've lost. He's like completely like flabbergasted. And he's like, all
Yeah.
this time, he's like, why didn't you say something? You never said you needed help. All I see is you doing. You all constantly never take time for yourself. And when you're supposed to be resting, you're hosting people. It's like you can't find that sense of contentment in yourself. And anyway, so I weathered through that. He stepped in, and as you know, ladies who live in the US, we don't have house help. We don't have the kind of resources we used to have back home. So when you take on this responsibility of doing everything, you crash. And we were running a business at the same time. So anyways, that was my very first breakdown.
Okay, I'm going to pause just right there. I'm still in shock first of you held the baby and you're like, you were not feeling what most mothers feel like, oh
It's
my
a lie. It's a lie. Like, I was like,
God. And you know what? Sometimes you buy into the story of what you've heard. Like, when I have a baby, I'm going to feel the way everyone says you're supposed to feel. And honestly, you might hold the baby and be in shock, like, am I good enough to even handle a
that,
newborn baby? So
absolutely. That was me. I was
yeah,
completely overwhelmed. And I was like, goodness gracious, how am I supposed to raise this little, and they're tiny. It looks like a little rat. Like, that's literally how tiny they are. And I'm like, how am I supposed to nurse this little human being into well-adjusted, well-balanced human being who is going to step into the world and fulfill their life mission, right? And I remember I couldn't even bathe the baby because I was so afraid of dropping him. And my husband, for the first 2 weeks, is the one who gave the baby a bath. So for me, that was very overwhelming. And I was like, why does everybody say you're supposed to be feel this overwhelming love and the best thing that ever happened to you? For me, it was complete. And then I went into postpartum, depression. We didn't even have a name for it. So I found myself in a very downward spiral because I didn't know how to ask for help. I didn't know how to be vulnerable. I didn't know how to navigate through my own emotions or even name them.
yeah.
So yeah.
So now the second part is what I was going to say. The second thing is, as women, we feel like I have to be the best wife. I have to be the best mother. I have to cook meals every night. Like, you're trying to be superwoman.
Yeah.
Right? You're being superwoman to everyone, but there's no part of you thinking of, I need to be superwoman for me. Right?
Exactly. And for me, that's actually was very intentional because I remember when I was pregnant with my son writing down, I was going to be this super mom who was doing it all. I was going to show women that you can do it all. God, was I wrong? Like, there's absolutely no way you can do that. You're setting yourself up for failure when you do that. Yeah.
And not to mention, like you said, by the way, what year did you come to the US?
I came to the US 19, is it 94? 94.
Okay, you've been here
Yeah.
a long time.
I've been
So
here a long time.
you've been here, you've married, not to mention you and George run businesses together. So you're still being the wife, you're being the business partner. You're just, again, it's I call it superwoman syndrome.
It's horrible. It's a lie. It's a facade that we shouldn't even be preaching to women out there. Because
Absolutely.
what ends up happening is we self-abandon to please everybody around us. And for me, I self-abandoned for a very long time. And then when my kids were becoming they were becoming teenagers, preteen years, and I realized this is really when I need to be able to support them, because parenting teenagers is not up here. It's not a job that is up here, it's here. And you need to be able to support them emotionally and be very clear, or not clear, but be very alert on what they are going through, because raising teenagers is not easy. So if you're not able to hold that space for yourself and navigate your own emotions and hold space for yourself, you're not going to be able to step out there and hold the space for the young man and woman to help them be able to navigate through their changing bodies, their social dynamics. They're struggling as well as you are. So for me, that's when I started now falling apart, being a mother of
So
teenagers.
you fell apart the first time 5 years into trying to be superwoman.
Yeah. So second time was I think around 2015, 2016, and my kids were just like middle school, and my older one was in middle school. Uh, uh, my daughter, she's reminding me what year it was, because they talk about it. Anyways, I was at that time we were in Fit and Fab, Jen, and at that time I was really struggling. I had made success, what would be considered a successful life in America. We had built a business together with my husband. When I was getting too overwhelmed, I told him we needed to sell the business because I could no longer handle it. We sold the business. I could afford to just sit back and just enjoy life, but I was struggling so much with my self-esteem. And I don't know if I ever mentioned when we were in Fit and Fab, I used to contribute a lot, but I would come home and I'm comparing myself to all of you ladies, and I'm seeing, why can't I be like Jane Mokami? Why can't I be like Ellie? Like, everybody to me was doing much better than I was. I was in constant comparison, comparing myself to other people, which is another mistake we make as women. We are constantly in comparison mode. So as I was comparing myself, I would feel my self-worth continue to go down until I sank into depression, really, and I became my children used to call me triggered. They're like, Mom, why are you constantly triggered? And the minute they would call me triggered, that triggered me even more. But I'm like, I'm not triggered. What do you mean you're triggered? I'm triggered. Stop calling me triggered. You know, I became the Kenyan mom, and the kids are just telling me how I'm showing up, right? And I wouldn't listen to them. And when I remember we were supposed to go to a trip in Italy and Spain, and I canceled. I was like, I cannot go with you guys. I just want to be alone. And I canceled, and my husband and the kids went. And my husband kept sending me pictures on WhatsApp from when they boarded the flight, when they are in everywhere. He kept updating me. And at that point is when I realized, oh shit, you need to help yourself. You literally need to figure out a way to save yourself. So that trip, I felt really like I abandoned my children and my family, but it ended up being my turning point, because that's when I literally realized I need to help myself. So that's when I started. I was on Google, like Googling what does rock bottom look like, and I started going on YouTube and listening to to different videos about personal growth, and I found this video of this young woman. She's a relationship coach and a self-love coach, and I listened to her, and I clicked on the link, and I scheduled a call on Skype. I scheduled to speak to her, and when I spoke to her, and she listened to me, and she's like, I think you need to come home to yourself. And I'm like, what do you mean come home to yourself? What does that even look like? She's like, you're so disconnected from yourself. I don't even know you have any clear sense of self. And your self-worth is actually very attached to external things. We need to work together. You need to figure out how to come to you, figure out who you are as a person, heal the parts of yourself that you need to heal, because if you continue this way, you're going to be very unhappy for the rest of your life. And I remember asking her, where do I pay? I think her fee was $3,500. I paid her right there and then, because I was like, here I am, miserable at home. My family, they're not really having fun because they wish I was there with them. You know, and the saddest part of it is that, sorry Nyambu for saying this, is that my daughter had just had her period for the first time. So I felt really guilty for not being there for her. So I had to work through the self-forgiveness and the guilt and the shame I felt about that. So it's, that was really a horrible place to be. But I'm so glad I did the work. Yeah.
So bringing it all full circle. And is that her?
Yeah.
Oh, mommy needs a kiss, right? How old is she now?
She's 17.
She's 17. So yeah, so all this, you hitting rock bottom happened about 6-7 years ago?
2016, 16.
5 years ago. Yeah.
5 years ago. Yeah.
And here's the thing, something was wrong, you didn't know what.
Yes, I always felt empty. There was a void inside all the time.
There was a void. You have a beautiful family. You have a house. It's not a money problem. You have everything. A woman looking at you from the outside is probably comparing herself to you, but deep down, you're empty.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I remember part of the reason why I actually shut down is I remember talking to somebody and I was telling her how I felt so empty. And I think her response was, what do you have to complain about? You live in a nice home, you drive a nice car, you have a husband, you have 2 kids, you have a business. What's wrong with you? What is there to,
You should be
you should be,
content.
yeah. And then I think after that, I shut down,
Yeah.
because now I started shaming it was very shaming. Yeah.
Yeah, it's saying, what's wrong with me? Why can I not be happy with all this? Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing your journey and being so transparent and honest, even when your daughter is there, because I think sometimes people think we become coaches from learning from a book, but I think most people are they're living their purpose through their experience. They've been through
Yes.
something, they've come out of it, and now they can help others. So let's jump right into it. And I know you're a mom, you're a mom, a businesswoman. So let's jump into what really is self-love. We hear it all the time. It's actually overused. But
It's really overused.
I don't think people really understand what self-love is. How would you define self-love?
Really, self-love is really starting to value yourself at a deep level and giving yourself the level of importance that you give everybody that you love, that you care about. So oftentimes when we are mothers, or we are daughters, we are wives, we are all these business women, we give so much attention to all those things, and we abandon who we are, like ourselves. So self-love is really committing to your own well-being, committing to healing the parts of yourself that needs healing, because we all come with baggage. We all have some childhood trauma we're carrying around, or experiences that we've collected over time that hold us back emotionally. So it's really being very intentional and committing to healing that part of yourself, so that you're showing up from an inner, if your inner world is in congruence with the external world that you're seeking, the perfect body, the making a lot of money, the career, all that. So your inner world has to be in congruence with what we wish to have on the external side. So it's really just doing that work to be grounded and have inner harmony, because inner harmony and inner peace is so crucial. And then once you do that and you're in full harmony within yourself, you're also able to set standards for everybody around you. Who are you and how you expect to be treated? Because at the end of the day, you actually teach people how to treat you. You are every day co-creating your life. You're every day you're every day stepping out there and creating the life that you want to have. How do you draw boundaries that are healthy? How do you take time to replenish when you're feeling overwhelmed? So all that is part of self-love. It's about being self-aware, having self-knowledge, self-trusting. There's 10 different branches of self-love, and when I teach classes on self-love, and we go through each one of those branches, because some of us are very good at self-care, which is really taking time to replenish and take care of our bodies, but we are horrible at self-trusting, or we cannot tap into our intuition, which is always going to be our inner wisdom as women. So how do you know which areas you're struggling, and how do you rise to be strong in those areas? Yeah.
Okay, and that's a good wide definition of self-love. So self-love is not having a manicure or a pedicure or having your hair done every weekend. That's one small facet. It's one small thing. That's self-care on a higher level.
Yeah.
Losing weight is a small part of it. I want to go back to something you said about our inner traumas and combine that with programming. As African women, this is the one part that our culture has done a great disservice in.
Oish.
We grow up emotionally, I don't know if I should use the word muted.
Mm-hmm.
We talk about that. Have you seen this?
Oh, absolutely. Oh my God, that is such a deep part of our conditioning, because if you think about it, we grew up not even being able to express ourselves, right? Not just speak up, but express our emotions. So we become very, very closed in. We cannot navigate through our
Sorry, some are muted. Let me mute
No,
them.
no worries.
Yeah, there we go. Yes, go on. Oops, sorry, I muted you too.
Okay, I unmuted myself. Are we good? Yes. So as I was saying, we are conditioned to actually be people pleasers. Because we were, if you are like anything like me, you never really got that opportunity to speak up or even learn how to navigate through your emotions. So you are constantly on the pleasing mode. You're pleasing your parents, you're pleasing your teachers, you're pleasing your church, you're literally, your whole world is external focused, right?
It's doing the right thing.
Doing the right thing, not particularly the right thing for you.
Yeah, but what
Yeah.
told to is the right thing.
Yeah, you are constantly seeking validation from other people. And then the other thing that I found uniformly has really affected us as African women is we were sold this idea that we prepare ourselves to win the man as a prize. It was never meant to be like that. The men are never supposed to be the prize that we go and achieve. You are always going to be the prize. A lot of women don't know that. So when you are showing up as a woman who is always looking for this gentleman who is going to be a prize you win, you're never going to achieve true love, right? And the other thing I found to be very true with a lot of us and almost everybody that is in my class is they struggle with codependency, where essentially your sense of self, it's put in the back burner, and you're in this constant mode of doing everything for everybody else but yourself. So so we have to work now. We have to work backwards. We have to understand the codependencies, the programming, the beliefs, because a lot of our life is subconscious beliefs that we picked up. We have to peel through those beliefs that are no longer serving us, and then only when you're able to do that can you now start doing these other things to rise into the powerful woman you are meant to be.
So the whole codependency thing goes different ways. So for example, I think I can see and use you as an example. For married women, your children, your husband, those become your new life. For single people who might not have relationships, so we don't have families yet, for us it might be our job or our parents. Like I think in our culture it's a big deal, and it's the way it should be, that when you're doing well you must help everyone every time. We're in a community called Kwitu, Kenyan women in the US, and conversations come up where people are like, hey, sending money to my parents every month, is that something I have to keep doing because I was told, even when I can barely meet my ends, you know? So being able to start questioning certain things, and I'm just using this as an example for single women, it could be any women, but it's that trying to recalibrate and say, it's okay for me to say, you know what, this month I'm broke, and even though I'm supposed to take care of you, I can't. Working backwards, right?
Yeah, that's the boundaries. I struggled with that myself. That's another thing that contributed to my downward spiral, is because I left and I was the only one here, and so I became the one who was supporting everybody and everyone back home, and it got to the point where I couldn't really say no, because what boundaries? What does boundaries look like, right? And I remember just constantly feeling like there's so much expectation on me, and I'm expecting that because I'm writing checks and sending money home and putting everybody through private university in Kenya, that I'm supposed to get some kind of fulfillment from that, or they should come and start singing my praises. That I have this savior complex. How dare you not give me my props, because I am putting you through school and all this and all that. And when they didn't do that, I would start becoming very resentful and very angry. And at one point, I think something happened. I had an incident happen, and I was in my garage and I broke down. I cried for like 2 hours, right? Because I felt so betrayed. And I remember my husband coming and telling me, listen, I can love you as much as I love you, but only you can love yourself enough to be able to say no. And I think that was really awakening when he said that. You are the only one that can save yourself from these situations you find yourself in. And you need to learn to say no. But I didn't have any boundaries. I had this fear of losing love. That's another part of codependency. And that's when I realized, as I started doing the work, I realized I was 100% codependent. And I remember just cutting everybody off for, I think, 2.5 years. And the funny thing is, all this time I thought of myself as their savior.
They were able
They
to
were just
provide
fine. I came back 2.5 years later, started contacting everybody. They have started businesses. They're doing their thing, right?
you were crutching them because you thought that was what you're supposed to do.
Yes, that what was supposed to I was supposed to be supposed, but there was a certain part of me that was that fear of losing love, fear of abandonment was really a driving factor in it. So that's why now I think self-love is deeper than just, the manicures and pedicures. It's about really working through those parts of yourself that are so fearful of losing love, or feeling like for you to get love and for you to get acceptance, or to just gain a sense of being, well-being, that you have to constantly be doing for others. You have to do for you so that you can authentically be able to show up for other people. And when you do it from a place that is coming from within, and that love and that abundance and overflow is coming from within, then only then can you authentically be able to give in a way that you're not expecting anything else in return, and in a way that is not self-rejection or self-abandonment, and in a way that you're able to say no when the answer is no. It's a complete sentence, and you don't have any inner conflict about that because you're being authentic about it.
You're not saying no then filled with guilt. It's an
Exactly. And no,
from
because I cannot do it right now, and you're not beating yourself up for it.
Yeah.
And the funny thing is, the minute you start showing up that way, first of all, you're modeling to other people what your standards are, number one. Number two, you're not constantly being driven by what other people think or what their perception of you. You are teaching them that these are my standards. When it's working for me, I'm there. If I'm gonna have to self-abandon so I can show up for you, then that's not authentic. I'm gonna feel resentful if I continue on that path. And then there's just sometimes you just want to be left alone. A lot of us cannot sit in solitude because we cannot sit in our own thoughts, in our own feelings by ourselves.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. I see Liz asking the question, how long did it take you to heal and develop self-love?
Okay, so self-love, just like Jane, when you're teaching, weight loss and stuff, it's like it's a continuous journey, right? It's not a
There's no
something you do.
destination.
Yeah, it's a lifestyle. It's a way of being. It's a commitment to yourself. You take. I started with working with a coach, and I worked with her for 6 months. That's the one I was saying. I wrote her a check of $3,500 without any questions. Anyways, she gave me now she gave me the blueprint, and she helped me understand my what was going on, and I started doing inner child healing work, and started doing reparenting on my own, and I've been really student of personal growth ever since. Even now, as I'm actually your student, Jane, right?
Yeah.
So even now, I'm constantly, and this is what I think women, we need to understand, is your personal growth, the same drive that we have for getting that college degree, that master's degree, that certification. Your personal growth should have that level of importance in your own life, because it's gonna bring everything full circle for you, and your life is going to be so harmonious and so flowing that you're just going to be a magnetic woman, number one, because you are a woman who knows who you are. You're not constantly seeking attention out there. And when you show up, especially in relationships, and you're a woman who is clear on who they are, who loves herself, any person, whether that person is your husband or you're out there dating, they will see a person who has placed some worth on who she is. And either they are going to step up and meet you where you are, or they will be like, you know what, I cannot keep up with her.
That's
And
true.
you are not in conflict because you know what, if somebody is not aligned, you keep it moving, right? So you are clear on who you are and what your expectations are.
So I think, Liz, to answer your question, I think what Jacinta is trying to say is once you do some of the foundation work, it's like a muscle, right? For example, the things that you're doing on an everyday basis, for example, if maybe your biggest weakness, using this Liz as an example, is you have an issue setting boundaries. Once you identify what that is and you know how to navigate and overcome it, it's constantly doing it to where by default people know if I try her there, I know she'll say no. Like there's no point because I already know. So there are little different strings. It's like our weight loss journey, right? You have to drink water not once a month or once a week, but every day for it to become a habit. You have to eat on structure based on the times you've agreed consistently to where it becomes default. So how long does it take to heal? How long does it take to lose weight? Depends on where you're starting from,
Mm-hmm.
what your goal is. But the underlying principle is you have to consistently repeat those things. It's like a muscle you're building, repetition,
Absolutely.
repetition. And just when you think, okay, now my boundaries are strong, guess what? You might identify another area that's weaker that you're now working on. So it's almost like a never-ending journey, but the most important thing is identifying. Now, going back to us as African women, you mentioned the word traumas. Give an example of trauma, because some people know they need self-love, but when they do a quick thinking, they're like, but I don't have any problem. Yeah.
Yeah, I think trauma for a lot of us is the how you grew up. If you grew up in an abusive situation or where you saw, like, let's say, women being abused. I grew up in that where I saw a lot of abuse, and I internalized a lot of that. I literally saw a lot of difficult things women were living through, and my father was an alcoholic. He actually died from alcoholism, and he was very, very abusive to all of us. So for me, that constituted a lot of trauma. And I had an incident where of sex abuse, and that really informed my childhood, and it made me very closed in. Right. So as I was a grown up, I became a person who wasn't emotionally available because I shut down a lot of my
The
feelings, right?
emotions are
Yeah.
suppressed.
I suppressed my emotions for a long time. And what tends to happen is when emotions are suppressed or they are not expressed in healthy ways, ultimately they become very toxic. And then at some point, they become septic. And that's what I was saying for me, because I had held so much in. That's when now my kids started calling me triggered, because I'm like, I have all this emotion that needs to come out. And I never had good learned helpful tools to deal with them, right? So when when you are withholding a lot of your emotion, or you're suppressing a lot of emotion, ultimately you explode or implode. And so that's, for me, was what childhood trauma looked like. A lot of women hold trauma if they've been in abusive relationships in the past. That Those are traumatic experiences. If you've suffered something like, even something like a miscarriage, or even when you had an abortion, your body remembers all this trauma, and your body, as they say, the body remembers. You hold this, and that's what you continue to walk around carrying. And that's why I say, when you work through, like, you do inner deep self-love work, it's like you're losing a lot of emotional weight, and you feel so much lighter. And that's why I think it's critical that we face these shadow selves, parts of ourselves that we want to hide from the world. You have to face them and make friends with them, and forgive yourself, learn to forgive other people. And forgiveness is a key part of it. And I think we often say that person, I can never forgive them, and you continue to carry that burden. It's a load you're carrying, and it has forgiveness really has absolutely nothing to do with who did what to you. It has everything to do with what that left inside of you, and that's what you're trying to release.
Yeah, okay, that's a really good example. And first and foremost, the first thing you said was your surrounding. Now, unfortunately for us, when we're growing up again in an African setting, women, we are told we persevere, you make things work.
Familiar.
And so already our programming is in the, forget how you're feeling. If he's cheating, just do your job. If you're being beaten, even I'm being beaten, so we are all being beaten. It's just part of the process, you know. And as you're growing up, or if you just see and experience so many other things, you might not realize as an adult that the way you react right now has everything to do with things that you think don't bother you. Like when you
Yeah,
think
it's a
about,
trigger.
yeah, you're like, oh yeah, it happened to me, but I'm over it. It doesn't bother me, but it affects how you react to certain things in your life. And I know this to be the case because when my parents divorced, I was 13. And by the time I was in high school, by the time I was 18, in my mind, I was like, oh yeah, they divorced and I'm fine. I moved on. It didn't take until 2012 for me to go through doing the same work with a therapist. And I was like, oh my God, I thought I dealt with that in the 90s,
You never dealt.
only to find out that the way I'd been dating and the way I'd been doing relationships stemmed from some fear and hurt from my father's, what I now
Yeah,
understand was,
that abandonment that you felt when your father left. So it's like your life literally stopped at that 9-year-old or 13-year-old that felt deeply abandoned by your father leaving. And you blamed yourself for probably your parents splitting up, which kids tend to do. And so you get stuck there. And that's what healing the inner child is. Because that little girl that is still in there, wounded little girl, that is still carrying this pain and trauma and self-blaming, and you don't realize in your 30s and 40s, she's on the driver's seat. Even how you show up in your relationship, you're looking for somebody to fill that void, or you are emotionally shut down because you don't want to face that pain again.
exactly. And it was, so imagine this is 2012. This is after I'd been married and divorced for 4 years. And it took us doing so much work and going back to, oh, no wonder I started dating at 18. Between 18 and when I got married, I was always in a relationship. The longest I was ever single in my 20s was 2 weeks. 2 weeks.
Yes.
When I left one relationship, there was always someone else who was like, oh, you like me, we're dating.
Yes.
Up until when I got divorced, I got married, I got divorced with domestic violence. And I was going to this psychiatrist at this time because my current relationship at that point was emotional abuse. And that was also the time I was at my physical fittest.
You're in magazines. Yeah,
So
right.
in my mind, I'm like, I thought when I lost weight, my problems were solved. But here I am. These words have been said to me. I went for help because I thought I was going insane. I was dating somebody who would say things to me and I'd be like, oh my God, I'm losing my mind. I don't think I said that. I'd never say that because I don't even believe that. I was going mentally insane. So when I went for counseling, I was like, something is wrong. I don't know what. And that cycle of therapy took me back to me being 13 years old.
You got
So
trapped there. Yeah.
that's a rough example of how you think small things from your childhood, oh, it's in the past, it's a part of my life that no one needs to know, or even you convince yourself it didn't happen at some point. you know
Yeah.
the things that happen to us growing up that we think don't bother us, but they show up in our current lives. And
Oh, absolutely.
they show up, and until you do the work, so between those 9 years, between then and now, I think me being able to identify what self-worth and self-love is what changed my life. It was never about weight loss, let me say that. It was
Yeah.
about me knowing who I was and starting to love myself. And that's also right about when we met.
Exactly, exactly. Yeah, so I was dealing with the same thing when we met, and I was sharing tips about beauty, physical beauty. If you remember, I was that chick who was always telling people, like, making concoctions, like making my own body lotions. Like I'm very much into beauty stuff. And deep inside, I was like, there's such a big hole inside of me that I don't know how to help myself. And so we all have gone through traumas, we've all gone through experiences, but the mistake we make is to think that if those things we never dealt with, that they ever leave us. They don't, and they continue to manifest themselves in the way you're showing up. And sometimes if you have this deeply wounded side of yourself, or very codependent side of yourself that you haven't worked on, you're going to attract very toxic relationships, and especially you're going to be a magnet for narcissistic relationships, and that's an entire rabbit hole you don't want to go through, dive into. Yeah.
So that is just relationships, men, women relationships. How does not showing self-love show up in the marketplace or the job?
On the job, first of all, when you are not, you don't love who you are, you're not very confident, right? You're going to hold back. If you don't have a clear sense of self or your self-worth, or believe that you are really worthy of great opportunities, you're not going to pursue them, right? Number one. Number two, if you are, let's say, in a management position, or you're running a team, you are going to not be very self-trusting. You're not going to be self-aware. Self-awareness is really being able to know how you react to the different triggers, to the different stimuli in the workplace. And you're going to be that chick that is either not able to stand up for herself or overly reactive. And who wants an emotionally reactive person in the workplace?
Yeah.
You don't want that, right? So it affects self-love, and how you love yourself literally crosses every area of your life. It's in the workplace, you're going to self-sabotage if you don't love who you are. You're going to deny yourself rising to those opportunities that you think are reserved for the white girl, so that person who looks a certain way, talks a certain way, because you don't feel like you can measure up, right? You're going to be deeply closed in to opening up to being given guidance and being mentored, because you're afraid of stepping up and say, hey, I'm struggling in a certain area, can you help me? And that's what I found when I was in corporate America. I found that when I was able to feel comfortable enough to even open up and say when I was struggling, because I was working with executives, older men, and when I learned how to just be comfortable being vulnerable and letting them know when I needed more guidance, they're like, we've been waiting for you to ask. It's like they just step up and they want to now help you. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So as you've said, if you can't speak up in your marriage, to your parents, to your friends, you won't be able to speak up in the workplace, right?
Absolutely not.
If you're trying to develop your career, get that top-notch position, how are you gonna grow into that person if you can barely share how you truly feel, right? So
you're going to sell yourself like you're going to play small in every area.
Sell yourself short. So you wonder why other people are being promoted, you're getting passed on, but because you're not showing up. You're not showing up, and you're thinking, there's this complex that people have. They're like, and actually there are people who live their lives like this. At their job, they're aggressive. They're everything. When they go home, they're like a mouse. And not to say that in a bad way. Of course, there's submission in relationships and all that. But I mean this in a way because I've had a few examples of people call me with this problem where they're like, I'm upset because this happened. I'm like, just talk to your husband. Everything you've told me, just go tell him. And she's like, I can't. I'm like, why? It's like
afraid of losing love, or like rocking the boat, or yeah.
And I remember telling two people who've come to me with this, I'm like, when it comes to your job, you play full out. People know, you're very expressive. You know, in your job, you can step up and be who you truly are. But there's a part of your life that's blocked because you're not being yourself. And maybe that's why your relationship is not what it should be. So do not be fooled by, I like calling it hanging up the coat of yourself. You're hanging up the coat when you walk into the house and saying, I'm back to not expressing myself when I'm upset, not being able to have candid conversations. But when I walk into the office, I'm a different person. Anytime you find yourself playing different roles in your life, you're not being yourself.
Exactly.
You're not
And
being yourself.
yeah, and this is very true, because I also work with a lot of women who are like doing really, really well in their corporate life and in their businesses. And then but when it comes to how they are showing up in their relationships, number one, they are not, they are deeply feeling unworthy of good love, right? True love, right? That's number one. Number two, there's a section in the class where we do about balancing your masculine, feminine energies, because I think, and that part of it is where we are going through. We live in the masculine world, right? We are literally doing business and showing up in the corporate world in a very masculine world. So we live in our masculine throughout the day. But as women, we have a wealth of other side of ourselves. That's the feminine, the divine feminine side of ourselves. That's the side that is the flowing, the nurturing, the intuitive side of ourselves, the vulnerable side, the playful side. That's our feminine, but somehow we shut that down. And that's really where our center of power literally lies, in that.
Okay,
And when
for those who might not understand masculine and feminine, can you do a quick definition?
yeah, yes, so each and every one of us, this is energies, and as they say, it's not your name, your title, your accolades, your outfit is not what introduces you into a room. It's your energy. That's your aura, your essence, what people feel when they are interacting with you. So each and every one of us has, and this has nothing to do with gender, sexuality, or genitalia. It's every human being has a masculine side and a feminine side. And our masculine side, men tend to have more developed masculine energy than women, but we all have it. And then women tend to have more developed feminine side than men. But there are men who actually are on more of the feminine dominant energy, and that's the guys you see and you meet them, and if you're a woman in your feminine, you want to just be friends with them. You're not really, yeah. So our masculine side is our logical side, is the to-do lists. We are constantly in to-do lists. It's our driven side, goal setting. It's what do you want to accomplish in our businesses and when. That's our linear thinking side.
Logical.
We live in the doing. It's called the doing. Your feminine side, it's that now unseen. It's those, the sweet spot for a woman is that allure. Your allure as a woman comes from your feminine, is your ability to feel your emotions and navigate through those emotions and feel them and deal with them in healthy ways, being able to understand every emotion that you're going through without vomiting them out, right? Yeah. That's your and when you're able to navigate through your own emotions, you actually open the space for your man to now be open to his own emotions, because he lives here predominantly. And so you are allowing, when you being able to navigate through your own emotions, you actually are inviting him to open up to his own emotions. The intuition is a big part of our feminine energy as women. That's our inner wisdom. You will always know as a woman when things are not right. That's gut instinct. That's your intuition. When you're not able to tap into it, you're shortchanging yourself. So this is a sign of us as women, that we are so gifted naturally. We are born with it, but when we are not able to tap into that side of ourselves, then we are constantly showing up as men. And as I say, those energies, when they are the same, when a man is in the masculine and the woman is in the masculine, you're going to repel. You are going to accomplish a lot of things.
So we end up having the women who kalia the men, right? The women who dominate.
Who wears the pants.
Right. You become the woman who wears the pants in a relationship. But deep down, even when a woman is wearing the pants in the relationship, I can tell you without a doubt, because I've tried to be that woman, deep down, I'm yearning to not.
Yearning.
I
And
think, you know, I just want to be like, okay, fine. Can I just relax and you run the show? Because I'm running the show in the office.
yeah.
You know, when I come home, I just want to feel like I'm in a safe space. So it's a balance thing that works either in the opposite. Either in the office, you cannot speak up, you cannot get the job of your dreams or get the promotion, but at home, the kids and the husband, everything's good. Or the job, you run things, but at home, you either fade off or you're too over masculine. You're not able to get the good balance, right?
You're constantly, when you're in your masculine, you're constantly overdoing, trying to control. And I think a lot of women tend to think that we have control of other people. You do not. Number one. Then we go into the fixing mode. You're constantly trying to fix your man. Your man does not need fixing. When you find yourself in that fixing mode, you're squarely in your masculine. So the other thing about our feminine is it's a receiving energy. It's our receiving side. A lot of us cannot even receive compliments, let alone let our man step up and do what they need to do for us. When I started worked on my feminine, it completely shifted my relationship with my husband. I like, it's transformation. If there's anything that is transformation, that was it. Because I used to be this chick who would be like, okay, I give an example. Let's say planning a vacation. Where do you want to go? When can we go on vacation, right? So ordinarily, I would be like, okay, so we're going to Mexico, and my husband likes to plan trips, and so I would be constantly nagging. Did you book the tickets? Where did we staying? Did you do it? And then by the third time, I'm asking this because now I'm squarely in the masculine, trying to micromanage when and how things are done. By the time I'm reminding him the third time, his response would literally be like, I don't even know if I want to be in Mexico with you like this, right? Right? Because it's like, that means stop nagging me, right? So now I stopped all that. The masculine side of me, I know when to just kind of lean back and receive and just be in my juicy feminine, right? And now we agree. I don't care when the tickets are booked. I don't care. We already agreed. Just go do your thing when you're good and ready. And almost always, he always surprises me at how far he goes. Like, completely surprises me, because I just let him go be great at things he's already great at. But when I wasn't giving him the opportunity to step up, and the masculine is the giving energy. Men get almost like, and we're talking healthy men here, not wounded masculine men. They get, there's a satisfaction they get when they're stepping up to be your hero. But if you cannot sit back and let them be that hero, then you are sabotaging the whole thing.
Yeah, isn't that powerful? I mean, if there's anything, it's as though everything happening around you, everything happening in your universe, this is your world, your relationships, your jobs, everything around you you're the root of it. And if you being the root are not sure of what type of root you are, why you feel how you feel, you know, what your worth is, then everything else is a reflection of the uncertainty of all this. So again, self-love is so many things and can go so deep. Again, most people know loving yourself is just, oh yeah, treat yourself, get your hair done, buy yourself some good shoes. That's good. But Jacinta has been this one person that I look up to when it comes to even just her post on Facebook. I'm going to share her Instagram, Facebook details later. Just the way she talks about self-love will make you go like, oh my God, I thought I loved myself, but I'd never looked at it in this perspective. And that's why I thought, why not bring her in and have her supplement what we've been working on, which is only physical. So Jacinta, give us simple ways that we can begin to love ourselves, just like simple tips here and there.
Oh yeah, so there's, you can actually start showing up as a person who loves themselves by doing simple things. Start saying no.
Actually,
when it's,
I'll go the other way first. Actually, no, let's go this way. This is fine. Yeah. So start saying no is a very simple way.
It's
Even
a very simple way. We are so afraid that we are going to disappoint people, and we are not going to be loved if only say no. Start saying no to things that you feel like you're taking on too much. Just say, I'm so sorry, I cannot be able to show up and make chapati for this party. I cannot be able to show up and do this. That's a simple one. Stop comparing yourself to other women. You are divinely created. You are innately a beautiful woman as you are. You are never meant to be a photocopy of anyone. You are meant to be your own authentic. There's no replica of you. Come on. So why are you comparing yourself to Jacinta or to Jen or to Mary or to anybody else? You are authentically a beautiful woman as you are. Stop comparing yourself. Then start setting boundaries. That's along the lines of saying no when you need to say no, and saying yes to only things that speak to you. And stop fearing that. And if you say no to somebody and they walk away from you, that person was meant to walk away from you. Don't be in conflict with that, because if you are going to say, I cannot do this because I'm not able to do it at this time, and somebody decides that they no longer want to talk to you, do you really want that person in your life to begin with? The answer is a big no.
Yeah, I think
Yes.
we hold on to people that, I like to say, you hold on to people that if you let go of them, you'll notice they're not holding on to you.
No, and that's the other thing, is we are so afraid of what other people are going to think. And if I can give you one tip, the thing is, we are, especially as Africans, we love to talk. But guess what? Ain't nobody going to sleep worrying about your problems. No. We may have a conversation about it because it's something cool. We are talking about something new. But at the end of the day, each and every one of us goes to bed worrying about our own problems. So don't be consumed by thinking that what other people are saying is of that importance to them. Mm-hmm. Do not find yourself in that place. The other thing is, be intentional about your healing. This is actually, it takes time, but I promise you, it's one of the best things that you ever do for yourself.
What does that mean when you say be intentional about your healing?
So we all struggle with experiences that we've had. We have had childhood trauma. You've had, like we talked about, children of divorce, or somebody who lost their like a parent. There's a lot of grief and feeling or trauma that we carry around. So if you've had like traumatic experiences like that, seek therapy. Therapy will help you. Work with a coach. It will help you really heal the emotional baggage that you have been carrying. Now, this takes a little bit deeper work, but it's a commitment that is worth making to yourself. Because I can assure you, once you start shedding the emotional weight, you will find that even shedding the physical weight becomes that much easier.
Absolutely. And this also goes hand in hand with be intentional also about, you said be intentional about your healing. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and also being intentional about your conditioning. Now that you know that you don't need to care about what people think. I think what people think is such a big deal in our community. Like, you worry about what people think more than what you think.
I know, right? We're so worried about what everybody is gonna think, and it holds you back in so many ways. And then you realize, oh, all those people I cared what they thought, they were not studying me to begin with. Everybody has their own issue and their own drama they're dealing with, and that's what consumes them.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes. Yes.
What else was on your list?
The other thing is, please do not feel guilty about taking time for yourself. To replenish, to indulge in self-care. And when I talk about self-care, not just physical self-care, it's also spiritual self-care. It's also emotional self-care. Take time to just be alone and sit in meditation or mindfulness. It really does your body a world of good to be able to take that time for yourself in the midst of taking care of everything and everybody else. And you also, for those of us who are mothers, this work is, when you do this work, you're also modeling to your children very healthy behaviors. Because guess what? Our children learn from what we model to them, our way of being, more than they learn from what we tell them. My children give us feedback all the time now that when you're raising kids here in America, they don't hold back. They'll give you feedback and they'll tell you how you're showing up, and you have to be open to listening to that, because they are giving you feedback on how you're showing up. They're living with you every single day. Just like
give examples of how your kids call you out.
Oh, they call you out. So I told you now when I was really triggered, angry all the time, they'll be like, "Mom, you're triggered," and I would get angry and say, "No, I'm not triggered." Then they're like, "That is what triggered looks like, you know that, right?" So anyhow, when I started working through this and I started showing up differently, they'll tell you, "Mom, we like this version of you much, much better because you're, first of all, much calmer, you're much happier, and we can talk to you about just about anything without feeling like you're going to get upset or you're not going to hold space for us." And my husband and I, actually, we make it we make it a requirement in our household that we all have dinner together, and that's the time we actually sit down and we ask them for feedback. And you have to be open to what they are telling you, because they will tell you. One dinner conversation, they came up and they had done research on the various styles of parenting, and they were telling us what style of parents we were. And I guess they gauged us as being, I guess there's the helicopter parent, there's the dictators, and then there is the consultative parents, and that's where that's the grade they gave us, that we allow them to be who they are and make their own mistakes from making their own mistakes and learn from them. But at the same time, we have structures and boundaries that we have for them. They gauged us on that, and they told us why that works and why it doesn't work. So you have to be open to that feedback. And when they give you feedback, then you implement the changes that you need to implement. But if you're all stuck in deep in your feelings and woundedness, you're not going to be able to take that feedback.
You're going to do the African version. Do
exactly.
what I say.
Do what I say.
Just do what I say. Like, I'm the parent, you're the child, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So that, for me, when I did the inner work, that's when I opened up that space. And as I said, I have 2 teenagers, and a lot of the work that we do as parents, it's actually emotional, not even up here telling them to go get good grades and all that. As a matter of fact, when they feel emotionally supported and they can talk about their emotions and where they are struggling and their insecurities and all that, you will start seeing the grades work themselves out, because they feel supported. When they are feeling like you understand them and they can come to you, then the grades fall into place. Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. So self-care in terms of time was one thing you mentioned.
Yes, take time for yourself. But I think the biggest one is taking time to really do the work to increase your self-worth. Absolutely. Take self-love classes, heal your inner child, do EFT. EFT is emotional freedom technique. And the other thing is, like, a place like YouTube is full of, sorry, my computer is, Nyambu, can I have my charger over there? Sorry, my computer is about to turn off, battery is running low. It's over there. Sorry guys.
So make time to do the work.
Yeah, take time to do the work and really be intentional about it, because I can assure you, you are going to show up in every area of yourself as an empowered woman, and you're going to empower everybody around you, and especially those that come behind you, the children.
Okay, let's get you plugged in. So let's do a quick overview. What does life look like for somebody who has self-love in the area of parenting? What does self-love, what are the effects or the benefits of self-love in the area of parenting? I think there you've said you will never worry about your children's grades because your relationship has improved, right?
Yes, yes, and as I said, our children don't learn from what we are barking at them. They actually learn from observing us, right? So when you're a woman, when you're showing up with somebody as somebody who knows themselves and who they are, and they are in harmony uh, uh, with from within, that's the energy you're giving out to everybody, and they also know where what boundaries they cannot cross with you, right? And that goes for the children, that goes for your husband, that goes for your bosses, that goes for everybody around you. They
Around.
know the where your boundaries are, right? Number four is that you want to model to your children that having self-esteem, having self-confidence, being clear about who you are is a strength.
It's a good
And you also help them to work through that for themselves. Right now, I'm doing inner child work with my daughter, and she's reading personal development books. You know, so we are preparing them at a young age to not really repeat the really, for me, it's generational cycles. To not repeat generational cycles that we have seen ourselves go through. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I think you're Kenyan, your husband is Kenyan, so you both by default subscribe to the same upbringing. So you're trying to make sure they don't make the same mistakes.
Exactly.
Has your relationship with your husband improved?
Oh, 100%.
Since
100%. He's much happier man because first of all, I can't even begin to tell you how self-love really transforms your relationship. Is because you, first of all, you're not trying to outsource your happiness to that person, and you don't realize how much of a burden it is for another human being to feel like they have to carry your happiness on their shoulders. They are not going to be able to do that. Your happiness is your responsibility. Your husband's job is not to be your source of happiness. Your husband's job is to be your partner, and your personal growth and your healing is your responsibility, just like his own personal growth, his own healing is his own responsibility. And when you come together as two whole human beings, your relationship is that much more powerful. So for me, we are at that point where like we practice conscious relationships, where you're authentically, I'm Jacinta, he is George. His healing and his personal development is his own responsibility. Mine is, and then when we come this together in this container of a romantic relationship or a marriage and a parenting union, we are that much more empowered.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we empower each other. So we are now on a communal growth together. Yeah.
Absolutely. So your relationship from when you went through the rock bottom situation and went through your self-growth 2014, 2015, your relationship has changed.
Oh, absolutely. And also him as a business person, I see now how he comes to me for advice on multiple things, you know, like even, I don't want to say approval because it's not what it is, but my opinion is very important to him now, you know, even in his business. I'm actually helping him on a project right now, and he wanted me to be on that project because he can see my strengths now that I've risen into them, and I'm very good at building relationships, and I'm really good with people. And he was like, can you come and work on this contract for me so you can keep that relationship going because you're so good at it. But I had to feel like I was really good at that to rise into that. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
as you've grown into yourself, it's like it helped raise everything else around you, your relationship, your parenting. What would you say to women in this call who might think, you know what, I've been married for so long, things have been this way for so long, how do I even begin trying
So
to show up empowered, and I know myself, and like, yeah, I guess it just goes back to doing the work, but I guess maybe encourage them to let them know it's never too late. It doesn't matter you've been
Never. It's never too late. I was married for what, 15 years plus when I started doing this work. And a lot of us think that we have to bring our husbands into it. Like we are constantly having to like talking to them. When you do the work for yourself, first of all, your whole vibe changes, right? The way you're showing up changes. Your vibration changes. And he can tell there's something different about you without even knowing what it is. All he knows is this chick, the way she's showing up, I like. And
something different.
something is different. I never told George I was doing all this work. I was just doing the work, and ultimately he's just looking at me like something is different about her. And now he is, I think our relationship is now way better than even when we met. And he travels a lot, and I noticed like right now he's out of the country. Even when he's traveling, and he told me this. It's like when I travel, I know that my home is not gonna fall apart. I know you have what it takes to really step up, and I can go hunt for the family without worrying that my kids like anything is gonna fall apart. And that's a powerful place to be as a woman.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Awesome. So ladies, if you're married, there's no timeline. Remember, this is not work for your marriage. This is work for you. It's self-work. It's like losing weight. Okay, fine. Some of you might have had to consult. No, I forget that. When you're trying to lose weight, you don't seek for permission, so to speak. You're like, I need to look better. You go look better. So the self-love, self-worth work is the same way. This has nothing to do with anyone but you. So don't feel as though I've been married for so long. My husband is used to me being this way. Now if I try and become empowered and set boundaries, I'm going to get...
You're not standing there with a whip. This is my new boundaries. It's actually very subtle.
Yeah.
Your changes are very subtle. All people will see is a different Jacinta, it's a different Jane, it's a different Judith, but they have no idea the energy that what is happening is you are showing up differently, and they cannot put their finger on it. And the men naturally get inspired by that. So you're not sitting there with a PowerPoint presentation. This is what I'm doing here, my boundaries. No, you just are showing up differently.
Yeah. So when you love yourself, when there's a lot of self-love and self-worth in you, your relationships get better. We talked about the workplace. You're able to show up at your job and demand or naturally rise to the position you've been wanting. For my single ladies, it's the same thing. If you're dating, the caliber of men you're dating will change because now your standards are solid. You're not just doing what I did in my 20s, dating anybody just because I didn't know I had abandonment issues from divorce, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Now, as I got older, if anything, I take longer. I take longer. I'm single longer because I'm like, whoever it is that's stepping up to me must meet my self-love criteria, So if you're single, I know we've talked about kids and husbands, but this applies to you too. If you don't know how much you're worth, if you don't love yourself, how can you set the standard for someone else to love you?
Exactly. And I've had a few ladies in my class that were dating, and they were in these relationships that are really not worthy of them. And one of the things that I love is when they text me and say, oh, I realized that relationship was not healthy for me, so I ended it because I deserve much better than this. And I have done the work. Why am I settling for this nonsense? So that's what happens when you do the work. And you walk away easily without conflict. You walk away from those things that are no longer serving you, or they are not aligned with the woman that you're becoming, or you have become.
Yeah. So ladies, did you find this session helpful? I'm going to ask you to start dropping your questions in the chat box. And while we do that, I'd like to share with you that Jacinta is not only a friend, we have a solid relationship. I've seen her change women's lives, women I know. And that's why she's the first person that came to my mind when I thought of love and self-love. She has an 8-week program that's kicking off on April, what date is it? April
3rd, that's Saturday.
April 3rd. So in about a month, she's kicking off she has an 8-week coaching program where she works with you through all the things we've talked about. Let me pull up. So yeah, so she helps you identify what self-love looks like to you. Remember, we are all not dealing with the same issues. You know, some of us, it's our traumas are different. We were raised up different. We all have different current lives. Some of you are mothers, some of us are single. So understanding what self-love looks like to you, then what is holding you back from loving yourself? Is it the conditioning, the codependency? She mentioned masculine and feminine energy. What does yours look like and how do you improve it? How do you love yourself without guilt, without self-sacrificing? So all the things she's talked about, as you heard, she said there are 10 facets of self-love. I think I only know 2 or 3. So this work goes deeper. So
yes.
if you'd like to work with her on her 8-week program, it's kicking off in April. And because she's my friend, she's given us a super, super incredible deal. This program costs $500, but she's giving it to us for $450. So that's $45K, $450. So you're saving $50. And you also can make a payment for this program in 2 installments of $250. So you end up paying $500 if you do that option. Again, this is a special price for you because you're my clients, because you're my people. So I'm sharing the link in the chat for anyone that might want to grab it. Again, the program is a month out. If you're paying a deposit, you pay the deposit today, and then the next balance will be due when the program begins. So you have a month to pay this off. So if you're interested, the link is in the chat. Self-work, self-worth, she's the go-to person. And again, I know people who've worked with her personally and doing amazingly well. Does anybody want to ask any questions? Anything you want to drop in the chat? Linda says, very insightful and amazing. Thank you. Will the program be during weekends?
Yes, right now I do almost everybody that is, I'm working with are all professional women. So they're working during the day, right? The week, right? Mm-hmm. So I do my sessions on weekends. I actually have a class starting at 2 p.m.
So the Zoom sessions, the live sessions are on weekends.
The live sessions are on weekends, and I record the classes and I share the materials. If I can describe what it is that we are working on for the 8 weeks, the first part of it, we are working on really understanding what self-love is, on the 10 branches of our self-love, and what is operating in the victimhood stage and we have dependency looks like, and how do you heal that? And we have practices that we do to heal our inner child and all that. And then the second part of the class is when we are understanding our energies and how those energies show up in our relationships, in our intimate relationships, and what can you do to now, if you are a woman who wants to be in her feminine, or who is attracted to men in their masculine men, the alpha men, high achieving men, what do you need to do to be in your feminine? There's practices that you need to, there are certain things you need to start doing. So we go over that. And then the last part is relationships, how to show up empowered in your relationship without feeling like you have to, because a lot of women who are struggling with self-love, they also tend to get into these struggle love situations where they take on projects in men, they take on men who are projects. And when you're in self-love, when you love yourself, you will never, ever, ever, ever settle for a struggle love relationship. We are not here to take on projects, grown men projects. We are our own project. So we talk about that, and then we talk about how to get your needs met in relationships.
That's a good overview. I think my internet acted up a little bit. I'm sorry for that. So, Allison, the program is $450. Let me make sure that is what is showing on the link. I've shared the link in the chat, ladies. I see you, Selassie, and someone else asking for the link. It's in the chat, so please take a look there, and I'm just looking to make sure it's 450. It is 450. Give me 1 second.
Oh yeah, yeah. Alison is asking.
Yeah, let me make sure it is 450. Yeah, it is 450. That's what's on the website as well. Again, like I said, this is a special deadline payment for us in this community. The deadline to make the payment, that's a very good question. Coming from I don't want to say Lois, or is it
Lois Mogo.
Jacinta, yeah. You usually work with a small group of women. I know that, right?
Yeah.
So I'd say, let's say the deadline for our special discount, because she's going to start promoting it to her people as well. I'd say let's make our special discount due until March 5th.
Yes, March 5th is good.
March 5th.
Yes. And ladies, this is transformative work. This is work that makes you hear when they talk about feminine magnetism, that's what this is. You become a magnet, you magnetize things towards yourself when you do this work.
Isabel is saying, what of grown women around the 60s? I don't
Absolutely. Yes.
Self-love work has an age.
Somebody are laughing. Isabel, yes. It's never too late.
Isabel, were you too old to lose weight? You've lost weight. What? How many kilos have you lost? Were you too old to lose weight?
You can unmute yourself. I see you smiling over there. Beautiful.
Rita is asking, is there a pre-program prep once signed on? I don't think there's a pre-program prep program. This is kind of a program you come to. By the way, ladies, let me say that all the information, all the things we're talking about, you can go on Google and type how to love yourself and you can read. But here's the thing. When you don't have structure, when you don't have someone first from our background who understands our limitations as Black women, I promise you it's different.
Oh yeah.
It's different than our counterpart white friends. The struggles we deal with as Black women are different. Number two, you can go and read all the information you want, but when you have somebody guiding you, holding your hand, making you do homework, making you say, this week, I want you to sit down and I want you to think about this about your life. You get transformation and you get to do progress when you're doing the work. Like Jacinta said, she hired somebody when she began and they worked together for 6 months.
Yeah. At that time, I was so desperate, I would have paid. I literally needed to save myself at that point because I was on the path where I was going to even lose my family at that point. Yeah.
Yeah. So unless you actually wake up every day and do the work, unless you wake up every day and eat your meals on time, drink water, not eat this and that, you don't lose weight. It's the same thing. When somebody has walked the path in your shoes and can help show you how to love yourself, that's what this process is. Sally is asking, how do you get your needs met in a relationship?
That's what we learn there.
That's what
getting your needs met has everything to do with you.
Right. It's not that your partner is not meeting your needs. It's, have you gotten to a place where you understand yourself, articulating yourself, coming from a place of power? So those are the things that Jacinta is going to help you uncover. Remember, your relationship is one piece. It's not the entire piece. No. Again, self-love is not about, do I love myself enough to be a good parent or a good wife? Self-love is, you're the nucleus. You're the center of it all. Until you're whole, until you're what you should be, then all the other things fall in place. The program begins April 3rd.
Yeah, that's a Saturday. Let me make sure. Yeah, it's Saturday the 3rd of April. I have a class going on until March 20th right now. So yeah, April 3rd, yes.
I've shared the link again. The program begins in a month or so. Sally says, very mind-blowing. Anybody who wants to share something, your ahas, something you've learned, something you need to think about? Somebody says that Jacinta has challenged them to think about some different things. Julian says, I have a lot of work to do. I will start learning to say no. Saying no is a big deal. Again, we don't grow up in a culture that encourages this. So you have the opportunity to work on it intentionally with help. So that's the power of this. Dr. Wangari says, very enlightening. Thank you very much. When I post these videos in the group, I'm gonna share her Facebook link, and more details. Audrey, you've raised your hand. You want to say something?
Yes, please. Thank you so much, Jacinta. This has been eye-opening, insightful, and for me, it has been also, you know, sort of putting a name to things you never really knew.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but it's like, oh, is that what that is? Oh my God, okay.
Yes.
And I remember, you know, when you were talking about, you know, this situation about how you can be a lion in the office, but then a timid mouse. Oh, that was Jane actually saying that, a timid mouse at home. And I thought it comes back also to the way we are brought up, in the sense that at work, we can always walk away from work. You can always slam the door and walk away. But at home, or, you know, with your relationships, it's so hard because we've been taught, it's been, you know, molded in us that, you know, your husbands are important, your children are important, you know, your own family. So that's why sometimes you can find us, and especially I think about myself, where at the office, you know, I'm Mrs. Boss, right?
Mm-hmm.
But at home, those boundaries sometimes are so difficult because, you know, you're in this, you know, position that, you know, this codependency.
Oh,
And for
yeah.
me, that's where it's important because, you know, we're always, that's how we were brought up, you know, family
Yes.
is important. It's, you know, and so you become almost these two personalities. And at one point I also asked myself, are they what am I, do I have a split personality disorder or what, you know? So this thing that really resonated with me.
Yes, there's a lot of conditioning that we come up with, and we just cannot rise to be who we are until we intentionally decide the conditioning that no longer serves us as women, right? Just because you are conditioned a certain way doesn't make it your prison cell. It doesn't mean that that's who you have to be anymore. So you get to decide, and intentionally so, to decide how you want to show up in these areas of your life. And the thing is, when you take control of that, you actually start realizing that first of all, people step up. The people that want to stay in your life, whether that is your romantic partner, they step up because they don't want to lose this new chick that is showing up at home more empowered and speaking up for herself. That comes, this lack of speaking up for yourself actually comes from a deep-rooted fear of rejection, or fear of losing love, or fear of abandonment. And we have to work through that, because you ultimately you realize, oh, I'm a pretty cool chick. What if I lose this guy? So what? You know, it's like, what if I lose my husband? So what? I lose him, I move on, right? Because deep to the core of who I am, I know I'm a person who is worthy of a good life. So I am not sitting here in scarcity. You're going to lose this person and your life is going to be over. Your life will never go. Who you are is enough. Who is you are is good enough. And if you're out there looking for love, there's love out there for you.
Right.
Mm.
I think my internet acted up again. We've been having internet issues. Come on.
I can hear you, Jen. Did you guys hear what I said?
Yes.
Okay.
Ladies,
Mukami,
I think I'm back. We've been having crazy internet issues since Texas storm. So I'm sorry if we keep going on and off. Am I back?
You're back.
Yes, I'm back.
Yeah.
There's somebody who had asked in the group. I'm gonna shut my video off. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Okay, I think I'm back. I trust I'm back. Someone who had asked in the group,
Yeah, we can see you.
when you came back after doing your work to reconnect with your friends, what did you do? Did you have to explain yourself to them?
No, actually, this was what surprised me. Is that I was even off Facebook for like 5 years, and this is what I was talking about what we worry so much about what people are going to think and they are going to judge us. That was not my experience. When I came back, everybody was just like, "Welcome, Japan Center. We're so happy to have you," and life just picked up from where we left off. So it wasn't. And nobody was like, explain yourself, why did you disappear from our lives? Unless I wanted to share what really were so long. And there was a time I didn't even see family members here in the US for a couple of years. But when I showed up at family gatherings, they're like, oh, welcome back. Did you hear me, Jane? Okay. I think Jane is still having trouble with her internet.
Thank you for this. I think for me, the fact that you understand our cultural background, especially having, being away from home, and it's the same thing with Jane. We are able to resonate better with you and get the help that we need better from you guys, because we are coming from the same background, the kind of an example you would give and the way you would relate to my issues, therapist, because we don't have.
I think I'm
Absolutely.
frozen, but you all can hear each other.
Oh, let me text her out. Yeah, we can. Let me text Mukami. We can hear. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Yeah, so let me text her and let her know we are carrying on with that.
That doesn't sound good.
Just joking.
Yeah, so I think that's why I think we've all had our aha moment. For me, it's the masculine energy. I think I have a lot of that. I'll speak up. I have a lot of that, and it brings a lot of conflict. When you talked about planning for vacations,
okay, I think I'm frozen, but everyone can hear me. So I think because my screen is frozen, I'm glad the meeting is still continuing. If you have any last questions, let's wrap everything up. Jacinta does have a 2 o'clock call, but I'm so glad that you all made it for this session, and I'm going to be sharing a link to this video in all our individual communities. So I hope that a few of you that are in need of really taking a deep dive into self-love can do that.
Yes, we can hear you,
now all
Jane.
of a sudden, everything seems to be moving okay. So
yeah,
please
somebody
let me
was
know
speaking.
in the chat if you can still hear me.
We can hear you. Okay, somebody said so. We've been hearing you all along. Did you hear that, Jen?
Awesome. Okay, you've been hearing me all along. Okay, so I sound like a mad woman. So
somebody was actually asking a question.
I've turned off the video, so my screen just froze and I couldn't do anything. So I'm glad. Did you finish answering the lady's question about what she would tell her friends? I think I heard you say you don't have to explain yourself.
Yes, and I was talking to, I couldn't tell who it was. She was talking about realizing that she's operating in her masculine. Was that Lois?
Yeah, it was Lois. It's okay, Marcy, by the way, everyone. I go by, my other name is Lois.
Oh, okay. So you go by Marcy, right?
It's Marcy.
Okay.
who is going by Lois, yeah. Yeah, that's what I was saying. It's like, for the most part, I think personally, I feel like I operate from that masculine energy, and it brings a lot of conflict. Like 2 weeks ago, because I'm freaking out, I want to know what's happening. He's planning everything. I was told now I'm becoming redundant.
Yes.
Because, yeah. So I want to hear more of it.
That's actually, don't even worry about it, because yeah, when we do the quiz, we do this quiz when we get to that masculine feminine dynamic, and a lot of almost 99% of my ladies, they realize, oh my goodness, I have been operating on my masculine all along. And really, your feminine is where it's at. Your feminine is very magnetizing, and especially to the masculine. So you working to really activate that side of yourself, you become increasingly magnetic to everybody around you, not just men, but also even at work, you become very magnetic to people.
By the way, I'm signing up for your April program. So you will be coaching me. Coaches need coaches. I did level 1 of self-love, and I think it's time I went to level 2. So I'll be in this program as well.
Oh, yeah, thank you. This will be fun. Yes, thank you. Yeah. I'm so happy for that you'll be in the class. Yes.
Yeah, so again, ladies, one last comment, anyone, anything before we wrap up? Jacinta will have 10 minutes to prepare for her coaching call.
Yeah, I have a class at 2 p.m., yes.
Yeah, but I think everyone has said that, you know, this has been a good session. It doesn't have an age limit. It doesn't have, you know, you don't have to be married or single. This is something for you. So it's not for your children or your husband. It's you trying to be your best self. Lady Ruth, how long is the class during the session? So it's a once a week meeting, which is about what, 1 hour? Jacinta, 2 hours?
Oh, I just, yeah, an hour and a half usually, because there's usually a Q&A, and what tends to happen is, especially when the ladies start opening up, then it becomes like a discussion. So my husband always says, oh, you're going on your 3-hour classes again, you know, because it becomes a tribe, and people become very, they open up and they start talking. Yeah. It's a safe space for us to come and discuss different things.
It's gonna be a Saturday or a Sunday. Lady Ruth wants all the details, even though she hasn't.
So what happens is I usually set the final time based on the time zones of where everybody is, because even here in the US we have West Coast, East Coast times, and then when I have ladies in Kenya, the Kenya time is actually what dictates the class time, because we are 8 hours behind, Mukami? Yeah. So towards the end, before the class starts, I will give you guys the exact time and what works for everybody, just because right now I don't know, because I don't know where everybody is going to be.
But usually it's either a Saturday or a Sunday, right?
Yes. So like my Saturday class right now is 9 a.m. Eastern time, because the ladies wanted to do it early in the morning. That would be like 5 p.m. your time. But most of the time when I'm doing with Kenyan ladies, it's usually like around 7 their time.
Yeah, so that Sunday about 1 p.m. ish. Yeah,
1 p.m. ish or noon time here. Yeah.
1 p.m. I do have a session that runs on Sundays 12 noon, so it has to be after that.
Okay. So Saturday or Sunday, I'm gonna be open either one of those 2 days, because that's the only class I have now in the pipeline for the spring.
Yeah, got you. Okay. Yeah. Well, this has been very helpful. Thank you, my friend. Always a pleasure having you. And I love watching you change women's lives, my friends' lives. I want to be next. So I'm joining your next class, and I'm bringing with me some women from my weight loss program, because I think we could do better in terms of, you know, learning to show up not just in beautiful bodies, but learning to show up as beautiful women, as magnetic women, and as unstoppable women. So
absolutely.
Well, I see a few people saying they'll sign up. Awesome. There's time. Again, the deadline is open for about a week and a half. So we're good to go with the special price. Have an awesome day, everyone. And thank you again, Jacinta.
Thank you so much, beautiful ladies. And thank you, Jen. And I look forward to seeing you guys again. I appreciate being here. Thank you. You are beautiful. I can see some faces in there. You guys are awesome.
All right, ladies. Good night and good afternoon for those of you in the US. Bye-bye.